Nei cronache dell'antica dinastia.
In the chronicles of the ancient dynasty. In the chronicles of the ancient dynasty.
Dei Sassanidi.
Of the Sassanidi. Of the Sassanidi.
Potenti governanti della Persia.
Powerful rulers of Persia. Powerful rulers of Persia.
Che regnarono per circa 400 anni.
Who reigned for about 400 years. Who reigned for about 400 years.
Dalla Persia ai confini della Cina.
From Persia to the borders of China. From Persia to the borders of China.
Oltre il grande fiume Gange stesso.
Beyond the great river Ganges itself. Beyond the great river Ganges itself.
Leggiamo le lodi di un grande re.
We read the praises of a great king. We read the praises of a great king.
Appartiene a questa nostra stirpe reale.
He belongs to this royal race of ours. He belongs to this royal race of ours.
Era considerato il miglior monarca.
He was considered the best monarch. He was considered the best monarch.
Molti dicevano che governava durante il suo tempo.
Many said he ruled during his time. Many said he ruled during his time.
I suoi sudditi lo amavano.
His subjects loved him. His subjects loved him.
E i suoi vicini lo temevano.
And his neighbors feared him. And his neighbors feared him.
Quando morì,
When he died. When he died.
il suo regno era prospero.
His kingdom was prosperous. His kingdom was prosperous.
Era più potente di qualsiasi altro re precedente.
It was more powerful than any kings before. It was more powerful than any kings before.
I due figli che gli sopravvissero si amavano profondamente.
The two sons who survived him loved deeply. The two sons who survived him loved deeply.
Si prendevano cura l'uno dell'altro con tenerezza.
They cared for each other with tenderness. They cared for each other with tenderness.
Causò profonda tristezza al maggiore.
It caused deep sorrow to the elder. It caused deep sorrow to the elder.
Il maggiore provò un vero dolore per questo.
The elder felt true grief over it. The elder felt true grief over it.
Shahryar.
Shahryar.
Le leggi dell'impero gli proibivano di condividere.
The empire's laws forbade him from sharing. The empire's laws forbade him from sharing.
Non poteva condividere i suoi domini con Shasmen.
He could not share his dominions with Shahzeman. He could not share his dominions with Shahzeman.
Infatti,
Indeed,
dopo 10 anni,
after 10 years. After 10 years.
questo stato di cose continuava a turbarlo.
This state of things continued to trouble him. This state of things continued to trouble him.
Non era libero dai suoi effetti inquietanti.
He was not free from its troubling effects. He was not free from its troubling effects.
Shahryar separò la Grande Tartaria dall'impero persiano.
Shahryar separated Great Tartary from the Persian Empire. Shahryar separated Great Tartary from the Persian Empire.
Fece di suo fratello il re della Tartaria.
He made his brother the king of Tartary. He made his brother the king of Tartary.
Il sultano Shahryar aveva una moglie amata.
The Sultan Shahryar had a beloved wife. The Sultan Shahryar had a beloved wife.
La amava più di ogni altra cosa.
He loved her more than anything else. He loved her more than anything else.
La sua più grande felicità era circondarla.
His greatest happiness was to surround her. His greatest happiness was to surround her.
Voleva circondarla di splendore.
He wanted to surround her with splendor. He wanted to surround her with splendor.
Darle i vestiti più belli e i gioielli più splendidi.
Give her the finest dresses and beautiful jewels. Give her the finest dresses and beautiful jewels.
Fornirle i più bei accessori.
Provide her with the most beautiful accessories. Provide her with the most beautiful accessories.
Anche.
Two.
Lo scoprì con profonda vergogna e dolore.
He discovered it with deep shame and sorrow. He discovered it with deep shame and sorrow.
Fu una scoperta accidentale che portò tristezza.
It was an accidental discovery that brought sadness. It was an accidental discovery that brought sadness.
Dopo diversi anni.
After several years. After several years.
Che lo aveva ingannato completamente.
That she had deceived him completely. that she had deceived him completely.
Il suo comportamento era molto povero.
Her entire conduct was very poor. Her entire conduct was very poor.
Si rivelò essere piuttosto cattivo.
It turned out to be quite bad. It turned out to be quite bad.
Sentiva che doveva seguire la legge.
He felt he must follow the law. He felt he must follow the law.
Era suo dovere obbedire alla legge.
It was his duty to obey the law. It was his duty to obey the law.
Ordinare al Gran Visir di giustiziarla.
Order the Grand Vizier to execute her. Order the Grand Vizier to execute her.
Comandargli di metterla a morte.
Command him to put her to death. Command him to put her to death.
Il colpo fu così pesante.
The blow was so heavy. The blow was so heavy.
La sua mente quasi si spezzò.
His mind almost broke. His mind almost broke.
Dichiarò di essere abbastanza sicuro di qualcosa.
He declared he was quite sure of something. He declared he was quite sure of something.
In fondo.
At bottom. At bottom.
Tutte le donne erano malvagie come la sultana.
All women were as wicked as the sultana. All women were as wicked as the sultana.
Se solo potessi scoprirle.
If you could only find them out. If you could only find them out.
Meno persone nel mondo.
The fewer people in the world. The fewer people in the world.
Meglio è.
The better. The better.
Un mondo più piccolo porta più pace e felicità.
A smaller world brings more peace and happiness. A smaller world brings more peace and happiness.
Ogni sera.
Every evening. Every evening.
Sposava una nuova moglie.
He married a new wife. He married a new wife.
La mattina dopo.
The next morning. The next morning.
Veniva strangolata davanti al Gran Visir.
She was strangled before the Grand Vizier. She was strangled before the Grand Vizier.
Era loro dovere fornire spose infelici.
It was their duty to provide unhappy brides. It was their duty to provide unhappy brides.
Il dovere comportava fornire spose per il sultano.
The duty involved supplying brides for the sultan. The duty involved supplying brides for the sultan.
Il pover'uomo svolgeva il suo compito con riluttanza.
The poor man fulfilled his task with reluctance. The poor man fulfilled his task with reluctance.
Ma non c'era via di scampo.
But there was no escape. But there was no escape.
Ogni giorno.
Every day. Every day.
Una ragazza si sposava.
A girl got married. A girl got married.
Ogni giorno.
Every day. Every day.
Una moglie moriva.
A wife died. A wife died.
Questo comportamento causava grande orrore nella città.
This behavior caused great horror in the town. This behavior caused great horror in the town.
La città provava il più grande timore per questo.
The town experienced the greatest fear from it. The town experienced the greatest fear from it.
Dove non si sentivano altro che grida e lamenti.
Where nothing was heard but cries and lamentations. Where nothing was heard but cries and lamentations.
Un padre piangeva in una casa.
A father was weeping in one house. A father was weeping in one house.
Lamentava la perdita di sua figlia.
He mourned the loss of his daughter. He mourned the loss of his daughter.
In un altro momento.
In another moment. In another moment.
Una madre tremava di paura.
A mother trembles with fear. A mother trembles with fear.
Si preoccupava per il destino del suo bambino.
She worries for the fate of her child. She worries for the fate of her child.
Invece delle benedizioni date al sultano.
Instead of the blessings given to the sultan. Instead of the blessings given to the sultan.
Un tempo accumulate sulla testa del sultano.
Formerly heaped on the sultan's head. Formerly heaped on the sultan's head.
Ora andate.
Now gone. Now gone.
L'aria era ora piena di maledizioni.
The air was now full of curses. The air was now full of curses.
Il Gran Visir era padre di 2 figlie.
The Grand Vizier was the father of 2 daughters. The Grand Vizier was the father of 2 daughters.
Egli stesso aveva 2 figlie.
He himself had 2 daughters. He himself had 2 daughters,
Di cui la maggiore si chiamava Scheherazade.
of whom the elder was called Scheherazade. Of whom the elder was called Scheherazade.
E la minore Dinarzad.
And the younger Dinarzade. And the younger Dinarzade.
Dinarzad non aveva doni speciali per distinguersi.
Dinarzade had no special gifts to stand out. Dinarzade had no special gifts to stand out.
Era come tutte le altre ragazze.
She was just like all the other girls. She was just like all the other girls.
Sua sorella era molto intelligente e coraggiosa.
Her sister was very clever and brave. Her sister was very clever and brave.
Mostrava sempre grande coraggio e intelligenza.
She showed great courage and intelligence always. She showed great courage and intelligence always.
Suo padre le diede la migliore educazione.
Her father gave her the best education. Her father gave her the best education.
Studiò filosofia con grandi maestri.
She studied philosophy with great masters. She studied philosophy with great masters.
Medicina.
Medicine.
Storia e belle arti.
History and the fine arts. History and the fine arts.
E oltre a tutto questo,
And besides all this. And besides all this.
la sua bellezza superava quella di qualsiasi ragazza.
Her beauty excelled that of any girl. Her beauty excelled that of any girl.
Era la più bella di Persia.
She was the most beautiful in Persia. She was the most beautiful in Persia.
Un giorno,
One day. One day.
il Gran Visir parlò con la sua figlia maggiore.
The Grand Vizier spoke with his eldest daughter. The Grand Vizier spoke with his eldest daughter.
Stavano avendo una conversazione importante insieme.
They were having an important conversation together. They were having an important conversation together.
Che era la sua delizia e il suo orgoglio.
Who was his delight and pride? Who was his delight and pride?
Scheherazade gli disse.
Scheherazade said to him. Scheherazade said to him.
Padre,
Father,
ho un favore da chiederti.
I have a favor to ask of you. I have a favor to ask of you.
Me lo concederai?
Will you grant it to me? Will you grant it to me?
Non posso rifiutarti nulla.
I can refuse you nothing. I can refuse you nothing.
Rispose lui.
Replied he. Replied he.
Che sia giusto e ragionevole.
That is just and reasonable. That is just and reasonable.
Allora ascolta.
Then listen. Then listen.
Disse Scheherazade.
Said Scheherazade. Said Scheherazade.
Sono determinata a fermare questa pratica.
I am determined to stop this practice. I am determined to stop this practice.
Questo atto barbaro del sultano deve finire.
This barbarous act of the Sultan must end. This barbarous act of the Sultan must end.
Liberare le ragazze dal terribile destino.
Deliver the girls from the awful fate. Deliver the girls from the awful fate.
Salvare le madri dal pericolo che minaccia.
Rescue mothers from the danger that threatens. Rescue mothers from the danger that threatens.
Sarebbe una cosa eccellente da fare.
It would be an excellent thing to do. It would be an excellent thing to do.
Rispose il Gran Visir.
Returned the Grand Vizier. Returned the Grand Vizier.
Ma come proponi di realizzarlo?
But how do you propose to accomplish it? But how do you propose to accomplish it?
Padre mio.
My father. My father.
Rispose Scheherazade.
Answered Scheherazade. Answered Scheherazade.
Devi fornire al sultano ogni giorno.
You must provide the Sultan daily. You must provide the Sultan daily.
Ha bisogno di una nuova moglie ogni giorno.
He needs a fresh wife each day. He needs a fresh wife each day.
E ti imploro.
And I implore you. And I implore you.
Con tutto l'affetto che mi porti.
By all the affection you bear me. By all the affection you bear me.
Di permettere che l'onore ricada su di me.
To allow the honor to fall upon me. To allow the honor to fall upon me.
Hai perso il senno?
Have you lost your senses? Have you lost your senses?
Gridò il Gran Visir.
Cried the Grand Vizier. Cried the Grand Vizier.
Indietreggiando con orrore.
Starting back in horror. Starting back in horror.
Cosa ti ha fatto pensare una cosa del genere?
What made you think such a thing? What made you think such a thing?
Perché hai quell'idea in mente?
Why do you have that idea in mind? Why do you have that idea in mind?
Dovresti capire cosa significa ora.
You should understand what it means now. You should understand what it means now.
Essere la sposa del sultano è molto importante.
Being the Sultan's bride is very important. Being the Sultan's bride is very important.
Sì,
Yes.
padre mio.
My father. My father.
Lo so bene.
I know it well. I know it well.
Rispose lei.
Replied she. Replied she.
Non ho paura.
I am not afraid. I am not afraid.
Posso pensarci.
I can think of it. I can think of it.
Se fallisco.
If I fail. If I fail.
La mia morte sarà gloriosa.
My death will be a glorious one. My death will be a glorious one.
Se avrò successo.
If I succeed. If I succeed.
Aiuterò il mio paese.
I will help my country. I will help my country.
Avrò fatto un grande servizio.
I will have done a great service. I will have done a great service.
Non serve a nulla.
It is of no use. It is of no use.
Disse il Gran Visir.
Said the Grand Vizier. Said the Grand Vizier.
Non acconsentirò mai.
I shall never consent. I shall never consent.
Se il sultano mi ordinasse di colpire.
If the Sultan ordered me to strike. If the Sultan ordered me to strike.
Immergerei un pugnale nel tuo cuore.
I would plunge a dagger in your heart. I would plunge a dagger in your heart.
Dovrei obbedire.
I should have to obey. I should have to obey.
Che compito per un padre.
What a task for a father. What a task for a father.
Ah,
Ah,
se non temi la morte.
if you do not fear death. If you do not fear death.
Temi l'angoscia che mi causeresti.
Fear the anguish you would cause me. Fear the anguish you would cause me.
In ogni caso.
At any rate. At any rate.
Mi farebbe molto male.
It would hurt me deeply. It would hurt me deeply.
Ancora una volta.
Once again. Once again.
Padre mio.
My father. My father.
Disse Scheherazade.
Said Scheherazade. Said Scheherazade.
Mi concederai ciò che chiedo?
Will you grant me what I ask? Will you grant me what I ask?
Cosa?
What?
Sei ancora così ostinata?
Are you still so obstinate? Are you still so obstinate?
Esclamò il Gran Visir.
Exclaimed the Grand Vizier. Exclaimed the Grand Vizier.
Perché sei così concentrata sulla tua rovina?
Why are you so focused on your downfall? Why are you so focused on your downfall?
Cosa ti rende determinata a cercare la tua rovina?
What makes you determined to seek your ruin? What makes you determined to seek your ruin?
La fanciulla rifiutò di ascoltare suo padre.
The maiden refused to listen to her father. The maiden refused to listen to her father.
Ignorò completamente le sue parole e i suoi consigli.
She absolutely ignored his words and advice. She absolutely ignored his words and advice.
E alla fine.
And at length. And at length.
Nella disperazione.
In despair. In despair.
Il Gran Visir fu costretto a cedere.
The Grand Vizier was obliged to give way. The Grand Vizier was obliged to give way.
Andò tristemente al palazzo.
He went sadly to the palace. He went sadly to the palace.
Doveva informare il sultano di Scheherazade.
He needed to tell the Sultan about Scheherazade. He needed to tell the Sultan about Scheherazade.
Il sultano ricevette la notizia con stupore.
The Sultan received the news with astonishment. The Sultan received the news with astonishment.
Era molto sorpreso dall'informazione.
He was greatly surprised by the information. He was greatly surprised by the information.
Come hai deciso?
How have you made up your mind? How have you made up your mind?
Chiese.
He asked. He asked.
Di sacrificare tua figlia a me?
To sacrifice your own daughter to me? To sacrifice your own daughter to me?
Sire.
Sire,
Rispose il Gran Visir.
answered the Grand Vizier. Answered the Grand Vizier.
È il suo stesso desiderio.
It is her own wish. It is her own wish.
Il triste destino che l'attende non la fermerà.
The sad fate awaiting her won't stop her. The sad fate awaiting her won't stop her.
Niente può trattenerla dall'andare avanti.
Nothing can hold her back from moving forward. Nothing can hold her back from moving forward.
Non ci sia errore.
Let there be no mistake. Let there be no mistake.
Visir.
Vizier,
Disse il sultano.
said the Sultan. Said the Sultan.
Devi ricordare la tua responsabilità in questo.
You must remember your responsibility in this. You must remember your responsibility in this.
Dovrai togliere la sua vita tu stesso.
You will have to take her life yourself. You will have to take her life yourself.
Se rifiuti,
If you refuse. If you refuse.
giuro che la tua testa pagherà il pegno.
I swear that your head shall pay forfeit. I swear that your head shall pay forfeit.
Sire.
Sire,
Rispose il visir.
returned the Vizier. Returned the Vizier.
Qualunque sia il costo.
Whatever the cost. Whatever the cost.
Ti obbedirò.
I will obey you. I will obey you.
Anche se padre.
Though a father. Though a father.
Sono anche tuo suddito.
I am also your subject. I am also your subject.
Il sultano disse al Gran Visir qualcosa di importante.
The Sultan told the Grand Vizier something important. The Sultan told the Grand Vizier something important.
Disse che poteva portare sua figlia in qualsiasi momento.
He said he might bring his daughter anytime. He said he might bring his daughter anytime.
Il visir riportò questa notizia a Scheherazade.
The Vizier took back this news to Scheherazade. The Vizier took back this news to Scheherazade.
Che la ricevette come se fosse meravigliosa.
Who received it like it was wonderful. Who received it like it was wonderful.
Come se fosse la migliore esperienza di sempre.
As if it were the best experience ever. As if it were the best experience ever.
Ringraziò calorosamente suo padre.
She thanked her father warmly. She thanked her father warmly.
Cedette ai suoi desideri.
He yielded to her wishes. He yielded to her wishes.
E,
And,
vedendolo ancora piegato dal dolore,
seeing him still bowed down with grief. Seeing him still bowed down with grief.
gli disse che sperava che non si sarebbe pentito.
She told him she hoped he wouldn't regret. She told him she hoped he wouldn't regret.
Le permise di sposare il sultano.
He allowed her to marry the Sultan. He allowed her to marry the Sultan.
Andò a prepararsi per il matrimonio.
She went to prepare herself for the marriage. She went to prepare herself for the marriage.
Poi,
Then,
si preparò per il grande giorno.
she got ready for the big day. She got ready for the big day.
Implorò per sua sorella Dinarzad.
She begged for her sister Dinarzade. She begged for her sister Dinarzade.
Voleva che Dinarzad fosse chiamata.
She wanted Dinarzade to be sent for. She wanted Dinarzade to be sent for.
Quando erano sole,
When they were alone. When they were alone.
Scheherazade le parlò così.
Scheherazade addressed her thus. Scheherazade addressed her thus.
Mia cara sorella,
My dear sister. My dear sister.
ho bisogno del tuo aiuto per qualcosa di importante.
I need your help with something important. I need your help with something important.
Questa questione è molto importante per me.
This matter is very important to me. This matter is very important to me.
Mio padre mi sta portando al palazzo.
My father is taking me to the palace. My father is taking me to the palace.
Celebreremo il mio matrimonio con il sultano.
We will celebrate my marriage with the Sultan. We will celebrate my marriage with the Sultan.
Quando Sua Altezza mi riceverà.
When His Highness receives me. When His Highness receives me.
Lo implorerò.
I shall beg him. I shall beg him.
Come ultimo favore.
As a last favor. As a last favor.
Di lasciarti dormire nella nostra camera.
To let you sleep in our chamber. To let you sleep in our chamber.
Voglio la tua compagnia stanotte.
I want your company tonight. I want your company tonight.
È la mia ultima notte in vita.
It's my last night alive. It's my last night alive.
Se,
If,
come spero,
as I hope. As I hope.
mi concederà il mio desiderio.
He grants me my wish. He grants me my wish.
Assicurati di svegliarmi un'ora prima.
Make sure to wake me 1 hour early. Make sure to wake me 1 hour early.
Svegliami prima dell'alba.
Wake me up before dawn. Wake me up before dawn.
Per favore.
Please.
E parlami con queste parole.
And speak to me in these words. And speak to me in these words.
Mia sorella.
My sister. My sister.
Se non stai dormendo,
If you are not asleep. If you are not asleep.
ti prego,
I beg you. I beg you.
prima che sorga il sole.
Before the sun rises. Before the sun rises.
Di raccontarmi una delle tue affascinanti storie.
To tell me one of your charming stories. To tell me one of your charming stories.
Allora comincerò.
Then I shall begin. Then I shall begin.
Spero di liberare il popolo dal terrore.
I hope to deliver the people from terror. I hope to deliver the people from terror.
Voglio liberarli dalla loro sofferenza.
I want to free them from their suffering. I want to free them from their suffering.
Dinarzad rispose che avrebbe aiutato sua sorella.
Dinarzade replied she would help her sister. Dinarzade replied she would help her sister.
Avrebbe fatto ciò che sua sorella desiderava con piacere.
She would do what her sister wished gladly. She would do what her sister wished gladly.
Quando arrivò l'ora consueta.
When the usual hour arrived. When the usual hour arrived.
Arrivò il Gran Visir.
The Grand Vizier came. The Grand Vizier came.
Condusse Scheherazade al palazzo.
He conducted Scheherazade to the palace. He conducted Scheherazade to the palace.
E la lasciò sola con il sultano.
And left her alone with the Sultan. And left her alone with the Sultan.
E le chiese di sollevare il velo.
Who asked her to lift her veil? Who asked her to lift her veil?
Rimase stupito dalla sua bellezza.
He was amazed by her beauty. He was amazed by her beauty.
Ma vedendo i suoi occhi pieni di lacrime.
But seeing her eyes full of tears. But seeing her eyes full of tears.
Le chiese cosa c'era che non andava.
He asked what was the matter. He asked what was the matter.
Sire.
Sire.
Rispose Scheherazade.
Replied Scheherazade. Replied Scheherazade.
Ho una sorella che mi ama profondamente.
I have a sister who loves me deeply. I have a sister who loves me deeply.
La amo altrettanto in cambio.
I love her just as much in return. I love her just as much in return.
Per favore, lascia che dorma nella stessa stanza.
Please let her sleep in the same room. Please let her sleep in the same room.
Chiedo gentilmente il tuo favore stanotte.
I kindly ask for your favor tonight. I kindly ask for your favor tonight.
Questa è la nostra ultima volta insieme.
This is our last time together. This is our last time together.
Non ci incontreremo più così.
We will not meet like this again. We will not meet like this again.
Shahryar acconsentì alla richiesta di Scheherazade.
Shahryar agreed to Scheherazade's request. Shahryar agreed to Scheherazade's request.
Dinarzad fu chiamata a unirsi a loro.
Dinarzade was called to join them. Dinarzade was called to join them.
Un'ora prima dell'alba Dinarzad si svegliò.
An hour before daybreak Dinarzade awoke. An hour before daybreak Dinarzade awoke.
E esclamò:
And exclaimed. And exclaimed.
come aveva promesso.
As she had promised. As she had promised.
Mia cara sorella.
My dear sister. My dear sister.
Se non stai dormendo,
If you are not asleep. If you are not asleep.
ti prego,
Tell me, I pray you. Tell me, I pray you.
prima che sorga il sole.
Before the sun rises. Before the sun rises.
Di raccontarmi una delle tue affascinanti storie.
One of your charming stories. One of your charming stories.
Questa è l'ultima volta per me.
This is the last time for me. This is the last time for me.
Ti ascolterò ora.
I will hear you now. I will hear you now.
Con piacere.
With pleasure. With pleasure.
Scheherazade non rispose a sua sorella.
Scheherazade did not answer her sister. Scheherazade did not answer her sister.
Ma si rivolse al sultano.
But turned to the Sultan. But turned to the Sultan.
Sua Altezza mi permetterà di farlo?
Will your Highness permit me to do this? Will your Highness permit me to do this?
Mia sorella me lo ha chiesto.
My sister has asked me to do it. My sister has asked me to do it.
Disse lei.
Said she. Said she.
Volentieri.
Willingly.
Rispose lui.
He answered. He answered.
Così Scheherazade iniziò.
So Scheherazade began. So Scheherazade began.